So we've recently made a video talking about why American workers are treated so much worse than the rest of the developed world. And now we're going to move that topic over to American healthcare and why it's the worst in the developed world.
What do you mean? I've heard it's the highest of quality, and if you go to somewhere else, be waiting for years to get a surgery.
Exactly. You'll die in the waiting room because you won't be able to get surgery fast enough. If you have a heart attack, you're going to have to wait in line.
If you guys couldn't tell, those are the talking points that some Americans say on why American healthcare actually is good. So let's see why it isn't good.
Here we go.
I wonder if you could tell me how expensive you think calling an ambulance out to your location is in America.
Okay, is there a price for that?
Yes,
Jeez, $100? $100?
$2,500.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Why?
They billed our insurance company over $3 million for the cost of transplant. I don't know what people do without insurance. How could you even begin to pay that?
She said the bill is up to $80,000 already, and she said, Mrs. Weinkauf, I hope you realize that you're responsible for this bill. I thought, what am I going to do? I've worked my whole life. Is this how my life is going to end?
In a previous episode, I briefly touched on the failures of the American healthcare system. That section of the video prompted all sorts of responses in the comments, mostly from Europeans who were horrified to learn that Americans have to pay for an ambulance ride to the hospital, but also a handful of brave patriots who claim, without evidence, that the American healthcare system is the best in the world. This video is for those people. Let's jump right.
And then that's why people from Canada and all over the world come to America for their healthcare because it's the best.
The rich peeps.
That's a very common thing. Just because America has a very specialized doctor that very, very rich people go to see doesn't mean anything for the average person because the average person isn't going to be able to afford that very specialized doctor.
What are you talking about? The average person is worth less than the rich person, so the rich person matters more.
That is true. They have money. They worked harder, so they're worth more money.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Right in. I'm going to throw a bunch of statistics at you, and then we'll look at the root cause of the problem. America spends more money per capita on healthcare than any other nation on Earth. You would think that this expenditure would guarantee the best care in the world. That is not the case. In fact, despite being the most expensive healthcare system on Earth, consuming over 16% of our GDP, it's one of, if not the least effective in the developed world. We spend over $10,000 per capita on healthcare, and not only is the quality of care subpar, we don't even cover everybody. Compare this to places like Germany, who pay drastically less per capita and guarantee coverage to all their citizens. There were over 27 million uninsured Americans in 2018, and that number will have skyrocketed in recent months, thanks to the millions of layoffs across the country. Even before the epidemic, we had more uninsured and underinsured citizens than any other developed
I am uninsured
nation.
currently,
In addition
by the
to
way.
not covering a large portion of the population,
very
even
tragic
those
if
with
something
excellent,
happened.
by
Good thing I don't leave my house very often.
Yeah.
We lived out of the country for the last 3 years, so I'm not paying for U.S. insurance, but now I'm back here and I don't have insurance, so it's like,
American standards, health insurance struggle to pay medical bills. Over 25% of insured people reported having difficulty paying for the exorbitant cost of their treatment. Of this group,
Even
63%
well-insured.
had to pay most or all of their savings to cover the medical bills,
So
and
crazy.
42% had to get a second job. Life-saving drugs in America often cost 10 times what they cost in other countries. For example, in Canada, one vial of insulin costs $32. In the United States, the same drug from the same factory costs $300.
Why?
And that's not
Just
even an
why?
extreme
So
example.
crazy.
Take the HIV drug Truvada. In Australia, it costs just $8. In the United States, it costs $2,000,
What?
despite US taxpayers footing the bill for its development. Every year, over 500,000 people go bankrupt trying to pay their medical bills. In a country where 40% of the
500,000
population can't
people.
afford a surprise $400 expense, an ambulance ride to the hospital will cost you more than twice that amount. And all of this is happening in the richest country on Earth. If we have the resources, and we're so much better than all the other countries, why is our healthcare system so broken? Here's the thing. It's not broken. It's functioning exactly as you'd expect it to. America's healthcare system is for profit. That means instead of providing care because it's the ethical thing to do, they only do it because there's a big check involved. Back in the 30s, Blue Cross and Blue Shield were the two main health insurance providers in the US. In those days, they operated as nonprofits and wouldn't turn anyone away for any reason. Then, after World War II, employers started offering health insurance as a benefit, and between 1940 and 1955, the percentage of insured Americans jumped from 10% to over 60%. This new demand for health insurance caught the eye of many business people.
And then what do you think happens if you want to quit your job? You lose your health care too.
Oh no, you're stuck in your job, and we learned so much about how amazing the jobs are in the US in the last video by this channel, so you're stuck in that job.
And recently Trump, I believe, tariffed or said he was going to tariff drugs.
Nice.
Coming into the country, and apparently 80% of like the ingredients in the drugs that we use in the US are from like India or China. So that's cool.
Rip.
They're gonna be even more money.
And the for-profit healthcare industry was born. By 1951, big names like Aetna and Cigna were major players in the industry, which continued to grow through the 70s and 80s. In the 80s, the country began to see its first for-profit hospitals, operated by large investors who owned multi-hospital chains. By 1981, 1 in 7 hospitals in the US was for-profit. Suddenly, medical bills became a lot longer and more convoluted. Every little thing became an itemized expense, from tissues to plastic cups to being able to hold your baby after it's born. The hospital's transition from philanthropy to corporation was complete. This is not normal in other countries. America had taken the intensely cruel step of taking something sacred, the health and well-being of its citizens, and slapping a price tag on it. With this commodification of health came unsurprising side effects. Average American life expectancy is lower than other wealthy countries and has actually begun to decrease in recent years compared to other countries slowly increasing. The US has the highest infant and maternal mortality rates of any developed country. The US has higher rates of medical errors than other countries. Adults in most other comparable countries have quicker access to a doctor or nurse when they need care, contrary to what American healthcare advocates would have you believe. To make a long story short, in just about every study on the effectiveness of healthcare systems in developed nations, America scores very poorly, most of the time at the very bottom of the list. And other nations are taking notice. Towards the beginning of the coronavirus epidemic, one university in Norway urged its students to come home if they were studying in countries with poorly developed health systems, such as the US.
Wow, they're getting shots. That's a straight shot right there.
Man, that's so crazy. Everyone just laughs at the US like, wow, the US sucks so much in healthcare and all this other stuff. And then over here, people are like, it's the best. You think we can have free healthcare? How can we afford that? You think we're just made of money? What is this pie in the sky stuff?
And even like health insurance specifically is like an issue that a lot of Americans agree is like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. They're scammers. But there's just nothing anyone can do about it.
Well, it's like the crazy thing is people will say, yeah, it's a scam. Yeah, it's a scam. But then somebody will be like, hey, don't you think we should have universal health care like every other developed country in the world? And they're like, no way. That's communism. Are you kidding me? We don't want that. Crazy.
American obsession with streamlining or optimization. Anything that doesn't immediately increase profits has to go. Take, for example, the practice of so-called just-in-time delivery of essential equipment such as ventilators. Instead of having an emergency stockpile, including personal protective equipment such as masks and gloves, these items are instead delivered only when the need arises. The idea is to reduce overhead, but in reality it leaves us totally unprepared and under-equipped for a national pandemic. That's why we see pictures of doctors and nurses wearing trash bags, because their hospitals haven't provided adequate protective equipment, and just to be safe, they're firing people who post those kinds of pictures.
A hospital making
to their
money
credit,
off of sick people, by the way.
was planning to address the national shortage of ventilators, but the company to whom they had given the contract was bought out by a larger company, who canceled the project because it wasn't going to be profitable enough. And of course that larger company's name is Covidian, because the architects clearly put an intern in charge of our simulation. I could spend all day listing off instances of absurdly high medical bills, but at the end of the day, some people in America will still defend the practice of for-profit healthcare. Maybe the best way to get through to these people isn't to show them the bills, but to show them what people in other, saner countries think of the bills.
It's not even some people defend it, it's most. Yeah. It's 100% of Republicans, basically, and then it's still like a good chunk of Democrats, too. Which is insane.
They'll be like, well, it's just expensive, you know?
So, here you go.
Ambulance call out, how much do you think that costs?
Zero payment.
Zero payment?
Yeah, zero payment.
No. Because $2,500.
For real?
An inhaler.
$100.
Yeah, you're pretty close. It's a bit more.
120.
250 to 350.
For an inhaler.
So 2 EpiPens. How much do you reckon they are?
$80.
600.
What?
$600.
That guy's reaction.
What? Why?
100, 200.
Dollars.
Yeah.
The average is about 10 grand. It can go up to 30,000.
10 grand for a baby.
It's okay to laugh. It's a funny
I
video.
mean, it's crazy.
But
with,
these
like,
are the types of reaction you
specifically
get
just
when you explain to any.
this stuff. Even it's not just like, you know, just double the price of other countries. Not even just triple or quadruple. It's like 20 times, 30 times, 100 times the price. That's insane.
There was some, I don't remember what drug it was, but it was some like pill for people that have cancer. And in the UK, it was like $38 or something like that. Something low, maybe $100 or something like that. And then in the US, it was like $30,000 for it.
It's literally more beneficial for those people to fly across the ocean, buy them, and then come back. But I don't know,
Yeah.
it might be against some law, or they have to pay some import, and then they have to pay the US price. I don't know how it works, but
Well, they're going to have to pay tariffs soon for it.
Oh,
You know what
no.
I'm saying? I don't know. It's so infuriating to see this, and then you talk about it to somebody, and then they're like, no, then we'll have to wait, and this and that, and this and that. All this propaganda just blasted into their head.
Anyone in a first world country besides the US just how screwed up our healthcare system is. We're not paying these exorbitant fees for quality care. We're paying for executive bonuses, shareholder value, and lucrative contracts. Pharmaceutical
stock
and
market
medical device
never sold
companies can
out.
charge whatever they want,
does.
and the US government will
Profit
never
over
step
people.
in. We're one of the only nations on Earth that doesn't regulate the cost of drugs and medical supplies, and companies negotiate directly with hospitals and insurers to get the best terms. Not best for the patient, best for them. Drug costs in America are many times higher than in any other country. Why? Because that's how it works in a for-profit system. The dollar holds infinitely more value to these corporations than human well-being. The needs of the people are secondary to the profit motive. The American healthcare system is a system that relies on people getting sick and coming in for treatment, which is why we don't see any investment in public health initiatives. A program like Medicare for All would likely solve this and every other health problem produced by the
Fox
coronavirus
News.
pandemic.
Birdie.
Everyone would have been able to see a doctor and get tested, which would have given us more accurate data about the illness and its spread. Hospitals wouldn't have to waste energy dealing with private insurers and fighting them on every little thing. And with the profit motive removed from the healthcare equation, the government would have an incentive to prioritize public health to prevent people from getting sick instead of counting on it. That in turn would make us better prepared for the next pandemic. But remember, the system that we have isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as it's meant to. Why do we pay so much money for the worst care in the developed world? And more importantly, why do we put up with it? If you'd like to learn more about the virus that made it clear just how ill-prepared the US was for a pandemic, I highly recommend you check out the coronavirus epidemic on CuriosityStream. It's a fascinating look at how the world responds.
Well, that's the video. I mean, my gosh. Well, coronavirus wasn't that bad. It was only killing the old people. That doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, and did you notice that the cases were way inflated too? The deaths were way inflated.
Oh, yeah, that's true. They were putting like influenza and stuff like that as COVID deaths,
And
guys.
Also, did you know that more people who were vaccinated died?
Oh,
than people who
really?
were
That's factual
unvaccinated?
evidence?
Yeah.
Factual evidence? Yeah, I mean, this video is just another example of how America is basically a dystopian country at this point. As he mentioned in this video, it was in 1980, it was 1 in 7 hospitals were private, and now it's probably literally almost all of them. It has to be almost all of them. The 80s was the time, Ronald Reagan was the president, where the United States like officially corporatized everything. I mean, that was the time where like a lot of things changed like that, because we were living in New Deal politics is how it would be described, from FDR until about Reagan. I mean, it was slightly changing. It's like anything in the United States that gets socialized at all, the capitalists will come for it and start chipping away until they get it all back. They're trying to do that with so many things now too. They're trying to get rid of the USPS so it can just be FedEx and UPS. They're trying to get rid of so many other things, the CDC, FEMA, all this stuff, so it can all be privatized.
Think about how much FedEx is going to start charging if they're the only option.
I know. The only reason the prices are low is because the USPS exists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. All I can say is Medicare for All was on the ballot in 2016 and 2020, and both of the two parties in the U.S., the only two parties we have, went against the candidate that was pushing for it.
Yeah, and the overall consensus from them, like from the Democratic Party, was that like that's too extreme.
Yeah, having medicine that for people that's cheaper and being able to go to the hospital without going into insane debt is extreme, and pie in the sky, as Hillary Clinton would have called it.
Yeah, so that's America for you guys. If you guys want to swap passports and citizenships, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, if you want the American dream, let us know. We'll switch with you. Hey, apparently, you know, our Tim Walz, Minnesota Tim Walz, he's been talking about Medicare for All too.
Hey,
is there a chance?
Maybe.
Is there a chance?
What do you think would happen if on the state level somehow they were able to pull that off? There's no way. Don would cut funding or something.
For sure. California did like make drug prices for insulin more affordable, so it's possible. But come on, Minnesota, you can do it. We're basically little Canada.
What was that one person that said something? What was Tim Walz's thing in our? Someone commented on one of our videos.
Oh, homosexual Tim Walz.
Yeah. Weird.
We'll see what happens. I'm guessing the America is just going to keep sinking, especially with what's going on now.
Rip.
Thanks for watching, everybody. See you later.
Bye.